Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Out the Podcast, number one podcast starring three friends who care about each other. Sincerely, I love you guys. Hey, I'm Johanan, the board game guru, game master extraordinaire.
Hey, love you too, man.
Aw,
It's
he's cute.
me. It's me, Casualty CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Podcast, and also every other podcast that's saved to your favorites list because you really love me, and I love that about you.
All right, and I'm the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen, and our extra special, wait, what I call it, the super fresh spooky draft
Yeah.
was such a success that we had to take a week off in between because it was so great. We just had some life get in the way. Did y'all do anything special to enjoy a week off from podcasting?
I don't remember.
I wasn't feeling well last Monday, so last Tuesday was sort of a recovery day for me. So I rested. Took a rest day, and I needed it after having a day where I didn't feel too well. My tummy's been upset.
Pretty sure I played video games.
I'm so used to talking to y'all each week that not having it last week, it feels like it's been 3 months since we've done this podcast.
It's been too
somehow.
long.
Am I alone there?
No. No, I miss it
Okay,
too, man. This is part of my like life experience. I don't know, man. Like it's hard to. I have to talk to somebody about all this stuff. I need it.
And like part of adulthood is that my concept of time is just non-existent at this point. It just makes no sense. So like especially I'm so like regimented, so when I don't do something for 1 week, it just everything goes off the rails. Because like for example, like one of the top things we've actually spent a lot of time on here talking about the Activision Blizzard acquisition by Microsoft. Like we've done whole emergency podcasts about it and just talked all about the speculation and when they were going through the FTC trial, and like it happened during our week off. That happened. It's official that Microsoft acquired Activision Blizzard, and I know we've kind of talked about this topic to death, but I'm still just kind of curious what you all are thinking, thoughts on it now that it's all said and done. Anything worthwhile? Dead silence.
I thought Gary
Yeah,
was about to say
dead-
something. So I didn't say
Dead
anything.
silence. Yeah, I saw you. Both of us like.
We both opened our
an
mouths at the same
inhale.
time.
Yeah, we both inhaled.
Now go ahead, take it away, Gary.
So my first question is when do we get Call of Duty for free? And I think I Googled it, and I think maybe first quarter next year was the answer. I think there's something about blah 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 blah. You still have to pay for it.
It kind of was a blah 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 blah. Like Phil Spencer addressed it with the media and basically said just due to some like pre-existing things they couldn't do like Bethesda, and just like the moment that the deal became a reality, just there it is, everything's on Game Pass. It sounds like there's a few more hurdles they have to get over, but the deal is done, and it sounds like we'll get all that backlog of Activision Blizzard games on
Yes,
Game Pass
but
like
that was my
early next
first-
year.
That was my first take. My first response is, okay, when do I get it? Right? So we've
Yeah.
got the deal. Now when do I get it?
That's-
To me, it's like the UFO crisis, right? Like the government says there's UFOs, and we're like, yeah, okay, what? But what is it? Like get to the net, but give us some proof, some evidence, something. Sure, your merger went through. Now give me the games. I impatiently say, I don't want to spend the money on Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, but it comes out, I think, in November, and it won't be on Game Pass until maybe January-ish, or, not January 1st, probably, later in January, I would guess, because they're not giving an exact date. So, I don't know. It's annoying for me because I don't want to spend $60 or $70 on a game that's going to be free in 3 months. But I do want to play it, and I want to play with my friends, and I want to learn the maps, and I don't want to be the noob who's getting just absolutely crapped on when the game is free because the other guys have been had a 3-month head start basically learning the game, the guns, the maps, and leveling their stuff up.
I don't even know what the new Call of Duty is that's launching this year. What's the iteration of it? What
Modern
title
Warfare
is it?
3.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
And I think this is the second Modern Warfare 3, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. But I've liked both of the Modern Warfares, the new generation Modern Warfares. I had a lot of fun with both of them. And my other friends are looking to buy them and looking forward to playing them also, so I've got a little bit of pressure that way. I want it. I want it. Give it. I think I'm just going to have to exhibit some self-control for a few months and just be that noob who gets crapped on. In other news, City Skylines got pushed back, and that was the other game I was looking forward to, so maybe I won't be able to keep my cool and stay patient.
Yeah, City Skylines got pushed back on console, but it is out today on PC, and I will be playing it probably after the podcast.
Did you watch the video on the Xbox home dashboard that was like Activision Blizzard King comes to Xbox? It was kind of a cool splash thing.
I thought it was I thought it was a well edited video. It was cool. Like, and it wasn't just all Activision in your face. Like, they truly tried to kind of incorporate it into their existing franchises and games. And so instead of having it just be all the new stuff up front, I like that they like made it blend. Like, this is now part of the library. These characters are Xbox characters now.
Yeah, and they made a real spot to show Spyro. You know, they really showcased Spyro.
Spyro is one of the ones I'm more excited about, yeah.
Yeah, I think that could be a cool relaunch. That's one of the things still, we could sit and speculate all day of what kind of cool things they have in the pipe now. But then, I'm back to the first argument. Let's see some stuff. Let's play some stuff and let's see how it goes.
I'm ready to see stuff come out. And I'm not a big Call of Duty guy. I like them well enough, but they make too many, and I don't feel like buying them all the time. So I'm not going to get it when it comes out. I will play it when it's free. Absolutely.
Let me put a little spin on this. If you had to pick two things that you're looking forward to from this acquisition, whether it's a game coming to Game Pass or like a dream scenario, what would be two things you would pick out? Putting you on the spot, and I can go first. I'll say the two things I would say are, one, I think it would be really interesting and cool if, and we've talked about this before, if World of Warcraft comes to Xbox. I think that would be just really nifty. If it was free to play through Game Pass and they made it on consoles, it would just be fascinating. And that's probably the one way to get me to jump into it at this point and try it out. The other thing is, you actually mentioned
20-year-old game. That's what's so crazy is like people would still play it. It's 20 years old and people would still play it and spend money on it, I'm sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
They still are.
And the other thing is, you mentioned Spyro already, but they did that the remaster of those 3 Spyro games a few years ago, and it was really fun to play those, and the remaster was really, really well done. I guess it was more of a remake, but really well done. So I would love to see a new iteration of Spyro in the future, like a true, third-person adventure platformer Spyro game. That's what I would want.
Yeah. I think Spyro is one of the big gets. It's a good IP, it's a good mascot, and it's a big deal that it's Xbox now. That being said, I'm excited for Spyro and potentially Skylanders. I don't know if they're going to do anything with that, but that'd be cool. That was always a cool idea.
A huge franchise once upon a time. When those Toys to Life games were a big deal, and then they all kind of came and went.
Yeah, it was really cool. Skylanders, yeah, that was the big one. And then I'm also excited. Man, there's a few of them. I hear things about Guitar Hero maybe coming back. That's pretty interesting to me. And then also, World of Warcraft's cool. I'm excited to play all the StarCraft 2. I didn't play all of them.
I said 2 things, Jahan. You're just listing now.
I said 3 things.
Breaking the rules.
Absolutely crazy. There's no decorum. And that means I only get 1 because you named 3, and that's messed up, bro.
That's true.
Wow.
That's totally busted.
It's true.
You said in a dream world, in a perfect scenario, what would we get? And I would like to see some new titles from existing content. Like, now you can mix Master Chief with the not the Protoss, not the Terran, but
Zerg.
The Zerg. So you could have Master Chief go up against Zerg and stuff like that in games. I think would be a lot of fun. Or, once upon a time they talked about doing a Terran game where you were a scout and you got down in the grease. And
Ghost, yeah.
I think Xbox lends pretty well to first-person shooters. That would be fun to see some existing content that Blizzard has reimagined for Xbox players.
Man, dude. So StarCraft Ghost, yeah, it was supposed to be like a first-person shooter that got mothballed like a long time ago. That one I was very excited for. They even had screenshots and stuff, and like it just disappeared. I'd be really interested to see that. And also, yeah, in a dream world, some sort of Smash Brothers or nonsense IP mashup. That's what I want. I want to see like maybe because they already have Heroes of the Storm, right, which is all the Blizzard IPs in a League of Legends style thing. But now they can add characters like Master Chief, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro to the mix on that, or some other game. I just think those games are always fun to me. Even that crappy like PlayStation one, where you could play as like the Big Daddy and like Ratchet and Clank and stuff, Jack and Daxter. That was a cool little fighting game. I just like watching the IPs fight each other. It's fun for me.
I think it could be cool too. And of course, right now I've been playing a lot of Darktide and Vermintide. But I think that particular game type, that Left 4 Dead sort of survive and push through, I think that style would lend itself pretty well to different heroes and different champions working together and not being a competitive rip-off of Smash Brothers, but being able to be something fresh and new and different. Pairing Jack and Daxter with a huge Zerg monster. You get a player to play as that, and then someone's playing an Orc Stormcaller, and the three of you are pushing through a dungeon to the end.
It'd be
think
cool,
that would
man.
be absolutely awesome.
Also, maybe they'll finally fix Overwatch.
No, don't get ahead of yourself.
that's
realizing.
Too far.
Well, like you have within the studios that are under Activision Blizzard, you have this studio, a developer called Toys for Bob, and they're the ones that actually did the Spyro Reignited trilogy, and they helped with the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy, and then they developed Crash Bandicoot 4 that came out in 2020 that actually reviewed pretty well, and recently did Crash Team Rumble. So I'm like, okay, they've had experience with platformers, so like what can they do? I know that everybody thinks about Banjo with Rare, but like what if Toys for Bob were to take a crack at like a Banjo game? Or can you put Banjo and Spyro and Crash all in the same game together somehow?
Yes,
like there's some cool options
like Super
there.
Mario Wonderland, except these new IPs of platform characters the Xbox has. That'd be cool.
Yeah, do like a cool platformer with different characters where you can play as Spyro, Crash, Banjo, or Conker, or something of the sort, and use these like mascot characters that Xbox has in their back pocket that just they aren't doing anything with. I don't know. There's some options.
I completely want something cool to happen, right? We all do, because we're Xbox fanboys and we're video game fanboys. Really, we just like games. We would love to see good games, but what I've learned from Xbox in these years is that with all of these awesome flagship characters in their back pocket, they still don't use them and still don't know how to use them. So hopefully this isn't the shelf. Hopefully this isn't the closet.
It could be.
For all of these characters, to think that you're going to make every single one of these characters hit relevant characters year after year, I think that's hard to imagine.
Xbox is absolutely the worst about using IPs like this.
Yep. So they've got more IPs to use wrong. And I don't know who to point the finger at. I don't know who needs to use the IPs stronger or better or put more money towards it. But somebody needs to. The only flagship character is Chief.
Yeah, because even the Gears of War characters are not like mascot. I feel like they once upon a time were more kind of iconic or linked to the Xbox
Gears
brand.
Kind of fell off, man.
Yeah, it's been actually the past two Gears games have been really good, but it's just been a dormant franchise.
I would say Doom Guy is a mascot, but he literally looks almost exactly like Chief, and that doesn't help their marketing at all.
It really doesn't. Yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, they need to do something for sure.
So we'll see. I choose to remain optimistic because it's just what I've been for years, and usually been disappointed, but I'll still continue to be optimistic.
You know what? At the very worst, we get to play all these games for free. So, whether or not they do anything new with them, we got to play them one last time for free before they get put in the dumpster forever. So
I like that
Right.
we kind of covered the gamut here. I like this. We talked about how games aren't coming yet. They're not coming until early next year, first quarter. And it'll be backlogs of games, it'll be new games, but until then, you're paying full price until the end of the year. So Game Pass is still the way to go. It'll be a great deal. It stays a great deal going into next year.
Yep, sounds about right. And there's some things to look forward to. Like I actually held out on playing the remake they did of Dead Space, which is a game that I really like, because I was hoping that after 6 months or so with EA Play that would come to Xbox, and it took a little longer than I expected, but it is coming out I think within the next week to Game Pass right before Halloween. So it's
I am
appropriate
in
timing.
the exact same boat. I was holding out, hoping I get to play it for free. So
Speaking of EA Play, I've been playing Battlefield 2042 again, which is free on EA Play if you don't own it.
I saw a stat actually about this, Gary, because apparently you're not in the minority. I saw a stat that said that the player base right now for Battlefield 2042 has, for whatever reason, been kind of resurrected, and there's more people playing it than there were at launch.
There are more maps. There are more guns. Now it's got Battlefield 1942, Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3 mixed into it. So if you play the Portal mode, you play all of the maps from the original games with original weapons. Then you can unlock those weapons to use in the 2042 mode. So I've been unlocking a bunch of new weapons. There's new tanks, new vehicles. They balanced some of the vehicles. Like, you used to be able to put the tank gun on top of the regular kind of Humvee, but I think they decided that was way too broken, so they kind of reeled back on some of that stuff. Broken. They added like a little quad bike that like two people can ride on, so you can like zoom over the map real quick with just two guys. But Battlefield 2042 is back on the map, and that's funny that you would say that, Drew. I didn't know that, but I think it's free through EA Play. I bought it when it first came out for the X combo with the original X.
I didn't realize it's gone free to play. So the IGN headline says, "Once thought dead, Battlefield 2042 sees huge surge of players during free weekend." So that was on IGN. It had a huge surge. I guess it was free to play for the weekend, but then it had a bunch of meaningful improvements. PC Gamer said they're finally having a little moment thanks to 2 years of updates and a big discount. So yeah, it has, it's.
I didn't
Sounds
know
like that
all
was
of
a
this,
good
man.
thing for this game.
This is news to me, so I need to re-download this game, Gary. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I'm telling you should re-download this game. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
Today, I was off work today and spent all day unlocking new guns, just using a bunch of SMGs and leveling up. I unlocked a crossbow. I unlocked like a supercharging railgun sniper rifle, like the old boom.
Oh boy!
So I thought that was right. It's kind of cool. Yeah, I would say re-download it. Get back into it. There's no time like the present, especially with another 3-month wait on free Call of Duty. It's get back into Battlefield 2042, play it for 3 months, milk it for all it's worth, and then go to free Call of Duty.
Get the cobwebs off. Yeah.
But that's my recommendation for the Game Pass. But that's EA Play also. So everybody that has Game Pass, not everybody, but there's so many tiers of Game Pass now, man. I was just looking at them the other day. There's like
and
4
they're
different
named
options.
super strangely. Like it's hard to follow along.
Yeah, they're not named in like a hierarchical way where it's like bronze, gold, silver. Like it's nothing easy to understand.
Somehow it
No,
got
not at
worse
all.
over the years. It used to be very simple. It used to just be Game Pass, and they really badgered that up. But I'll stop babbling about Battlefield 2042, but put it back on your list. If you even barely liked it, it's been fixed. It's much better. Check it out.
There's definitely some more games I'll talk about here soon, but I'll save them for fresh picks because I did want to talk about a couple other things before we get into it, just while we're catching up. First off, a box office update. Do y'all know what the number one movie at the box office was for the past 2 weekends in a row?
Barbie.
No, not Barbie.
I don't know.
The number one movie the past 2
Did something come out?
weekends in a
I have
row.
no idea, man.
Was it
trying
the
to think.
Taylor Swift movie?
It sure was.
Oh, boy.
Gary has got it. Taylor Swift,
did.
the Eras Tour concert
Drew, he
movie.
told us this was going to happen, Jahan.
Yeah, but it's not really a movie.
I don't know if you made this a fresh prediction, but if you did, you got pat yourself on the back because you got this one. You did predict this.
It wasn't even a fresh prediction because it was like basically all the predictions were it was going to do really well, and it ended up making about $100 million, nearly
At the time,
in its opening weekend.
At the time, you had just told us Halloween pushed forward one weekend to avoid competing, and we were like,
yeah,
really?
The Exorcist.
Yeah, that's right, Exorcist. And we were like, really? That it did? Okay, whatever. But yeah, that sticks in my head as like, yeah, that's right. Who had the next 2 weeks? You know, they knew who had it. The Exorcist stepped out of the way.
We did get feedback. I think it was from our friend of the show, Connor, and I think he was just like laughing at you both. You know, no offense to either of you, although he probably would wish you both offense. But like he said, y'all's lack of not understanding, but like I guess recognition of how big Taylor Swift was. He was like, that's on y'all for not know. I think y'all were shocked when I told you, and Connor was like, I couldn't believe that they were so shocked at how big Taylor Swift is. Is that right?
I'm still shocked by it to this day. I will remain shocked by it. And while we're talking about Taylor Swift, I got to let you know Grayson Waller of the WWE, the heel wrestler who is a very funny, hated Australian guy?
I do.
He called Taylor Swift a 6, and all the Swifties like went after him on Twitter, and it's really funny because he's a heat guy. So it's some good heat. I would love to see.
I got my haircut, and the lady cutting my hair was talking about Taylor Swift's boyfriend because he was on TV at Sports Clips, and she was like, no one knew who he was till he started dating Taylor Swift, and like it was just
That's
really
funny.
funny. She was like, it was a really good career move.
Do you know his name, Jahan?
No, why would I? He's the guy dating Taylor Swift. He's not anybody.
Travis Kelce.
Oh
no,
wow.
he's Jahan. Oh man, you're a Swiftie at heart. Travis Kelce's gonna be probably the greatest tight end of all time. Like he's that good.
What is
he's
that?
Like
what's
a Hall of
what's that
Famer.
mean?
It means he's really good at football.
What's a tight
It
end?
means the tight end is the guy who plays off the end, who receives the ball and also blocks. They're a lineman that doubles as a receiver.
So he's on offense.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
Have
Travis
you heard
Kelce
of a
man.
guy named Rob Gronkowski? He was a famous tight end before
Of course
he
I
retired.
haven't. What's wrong with you? I just
boy,
found out
this
what
is-
they were.
This is why we don't
So-
touch sports on this show unless it's wrestling.
Drew, real quick, I wanted to say, with Grayson Waller talking that crap, I would love to see like a WrestleMania spot where Travis Kelce reaches over and slaps Grayson Waller or something like that. Just, they're trying to milk it. I would love to see it.
That'd be funny.
Give him his hype. Let him be hated all around the world.
And then when they start fighting, she comes out and is like, just shake it off, shake it off. It'd be good.
There were some TikToks, Jahan, that did the opposite that I thought were very funny, where like there'd be guys talking to their girlfriends or significant others saying how cool it is that Travis Kelce is putting Taylor Swift on the map, like that he's making her a big deal,
Oh,
and
that's
these
absurd.
women would get extremely offended in the videos, and it's quite funny.
Yeah, she's arguably she's one of the most famous people on earth.
I was listening to one podcast and I can't remember what it was, but they basically were saying they were making the point or asking the question of, is Taylor Swift the biggest pop star since Michael Jackson? Like, is she that big? Is she that big of a deal? And
probably.
it kind of seems like the answer's yes. Yeah, that she is.
I mean, it helps that the population of Earth has like doubled since then. But
Do you know she babysat Jeff Jarrett's kids?
Yes, I did know that. I did.
Who's Jeff Jarrett?
He's a wrestler.
Okay, cool.
I
know what those are.
That movie. I will say this. I can't remember if I said this when we were last recorded. So if I did, forgive me. When that Taylor Swift movie was the concert movie was coming out, I looked. There's like a small theater. It's like 6 minutes from my house. I go there all the time for movies when I just want to catch something quickly. And they were showing the Taylor Swift Eras Tour concert film. And I think on like the Thursday night or Friday night showing, I went to just look to see how full it was on opening weekend because I'd heard, it was selling out. And I go, and my small little theater, mind you, was like usually pretty cheap matinee tickets. But even on a Friday night in the biggest theater, like their big Dolby theater, it's maybe 14 or 15, 16 bucks a ticket maybe on a Friday night. Like you can get them for $8 on a morning, but 16 bucks Friday night. And I go to Taylor Swift, and it had the tickets listed as you couldn't purchase like a student or a senior or a child ticket. There's one choice, and it was special event concert film. And the tickets for a Friday evening were $22. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot. And so I was like, well, let me look at what the Saturday morning matinee is. Same thing. You couldn't get a ticket for less than $22, no matter what time of day you went. And I was like, man, even if I had considered checking this out just from like the cinephile in me to see what this movie is from a cinematic standpoint, I was like, I just can't justify paying nearly twice as much as I do for a normal ticket to see this thing that I really don't care to see anyway.
That's borderline price gouging, and they should feel bad.
Yeah, it's I mean, I get they're able to do it and the fans will pay. And then I saw the TikToks over the weekend, which I don't know if y'all did, like the people in the theaters dancing around the theater and standing and singing. I was like, nope, I'm out on this one. I probably gonna skip it.
Yeah, it was mostly like teenage girls doing it.
Yeah, and I'm sure like if you're in that crowd and that's what you're wanting, like that's fun. But for me, as somebody who sits by myself quiet in theaters 90% of the time, I'm not here for it. I'm out. I hope that they all enjoy it and have fun.
If I'm in a theater and somebody gets up out of their chair and starts singing and dancing around, I'm going to throw my shoe at their head. I'm taking the shoe off and I'm slinging it.
What if it's 75% of the theater, though?
I'm gonna wear a lot of shoes. I'm gonna have to prepare this. I'm gonna have to get shoes ranging from sizes much larger than my own, and I'm gonna have like a Russian nesting doll of shoes type of situation.
You're gonna put on layers of shoes.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be winging shoes like Random Task from Austin Powers. I'm gonna be knocking statues' heads off, man.
That guy's a real life murderer.
I don't know if that's true. He never murdered me.
It's fair. But you were never dancing in a movie theater, so...
Fair enough.
Yep.
We'll move on from that. I wanted to touch on Taylor Swift The Eras tour because it's the biggest concert tour and one of the biggest movies of the year at this point, which is crazy to say. And now we're going to move on before we get to our fresh picks to the return of a fan favorite segment.
I've been waiting to see what this is. Yeah,
this is just
fan favorite.
The fresh out the box email account, and just the fans have been raging, sending in letters. When is this coming back? When's it gonna happen? And it's finally time. We're now in late October, going into November. We're in awards season time officially in the movieverse. And it is time for Drew's fresh Oscar picks. That's right. It's Drew's fresh Oscar minute. It's back. It's back in full force. So all the fans can finally quiet down.
I want to see these emails, Drew.
And prepare to listen to
I don't believe
what
you sound like Trump, man. Chill out.
all the listeners have been
block him
for. So right now, because we've touched on some of the movies actually that are already part of the awards conversation, but now we're kind of through the fall festival season, so some clear runners and potential awards fodder have truly been unveiled now. And actually the one that's still standing tall right now is Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. As of right now, it seems like Oppenheimer is kind of the front runner to be Best Picture at the Academy Awards this year, which is really interesting. Barbie probably will be nominated this year, but there was another big Oscar release just this past weekend in Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. 3 hours and 26 minutes of just pure Marty goodness. And I did go see it over the weekend, and just to put it bluntly, as I let that movie wash over me. I had read the book beforehand, so I was familiar with the story.
And I've never heard the name Martin Scorsese before in my entire life. What movies does Martin Scorsese? What is he known for?
Yeah, who is he?
Yeah. Oh boy,
yeah, who's that guy?
Just pretend.
Yeah, just pretend.
Is Goodfellas considered like the top Martin? Is that a lot of people's favorites?
Wouldn't know.
Goodfellas?
Never heard of the guy.
Oh gosh. Like there's the more recent stuff like Goodfellas and The Departed and The Wolf of Wall Street. He's obviously worked with Leo a lot.
The Irishman?
The Irishman was the last movie he did before Killers of the Flower Moon.
All right. Now I don't have to pretend like I don't know who he is anymore.
Oh gosh, Gary. No.
I don't have to pretend.
Taxi Driver and Raging Bull and Casino and Gangs of New York and Mean Streets.
Oh, I like Gangs of New York.
Hugo, The Aviator, The King of Comedy. There's a whole lot. Last Temptation of Christ, After Hours, The Color of Money. Just going
great.
through a few here.
I knew that one.
Yeah, he's been around for a while, and he's 80 years old and still.
Some pretty good movies you named there. Some pretty good ones.
Yeah,
pretty good ones.
Which actually, The Departed, I believe, is the one that finally got him his Oscar.
That's probably that's a really good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. I love John Leguizamo.
I don't know what movie you're mistaking this for.
Nothing.
I assume there's a joke here that's just going. I don't know. I'm just gonna let Gary have this one. But no, the Killers of the Flower Moon is this new big epic, and I really think it's a masterpiece. It's an interesting play because it's a $200 million movie. It's how much it cost, and that bill was footed by Apple, and this is an Apple TV Plus original movie, but they partnered with Paramount to distribute it, so it's getting a few weeks of theatrical distribution, but in only 3 weeks or so it'll be on Apple TV Plus. It'll be, I believe, in 3 weeks. Actually, I'm looking. This says an unspecified streaming release. I thought it was around 3 weeks though, but it will be on Apple TV Plus,
so
where I'm sure
Apple
people
funded
will.
This movie?
Yes,
that's crazy. They had to sell like 10 phones.
Exactly. The whole 10
social
exactly
commentary.
Right.
That's why people come here.
And so this is a big Oscar play, and to be honest, probably liked it better than. And I loved Oppenheimer. I probably liked this a little bit more. This one's still super fresh, for me, fresh out the podcast, and. Yeah, I are y'all familiar with Killers of the Flower Moon and what it's about and what's going on here?
Not at all.
Man, so first off, I believe when we did our not predictions, but our most anticipated movies of the year and TV shows and games of the year, Killers of the Flower Moon was my number one. Because I've read the book, and essentially it is about the Osage Indian tribe that they were forced out of their land in Missouri to a terrible piece of land, small area in Oklahoma, and that was their new land. As the white man's taken over country, so they placed the Osage here in this just unappealing plot of land. Turned out that land was extremely rich in oil. And so the Osage Indians became some of the richest people in the country due to that. And so, but because of the way the country was developing, there were still a lot of rules and restrictions, regulations on how they could use their money and how they managed their wealth. They had guardians and things like that kind of were gatekeeping their money. So while they had a lot of material wealth, they were still, limited in what they could do. And it also drew in a lot of outsiders and oil men and white men that would marry their way into the Osage families. And then, to put it bluntly, a lot of the Osage started getting murdered, and there were dozens of murders of the Osage Indians. And
well, that seems suspicious, doesn't it?
right. And you would see trends in these murders and how it was happening. They weren't really being properly investigated either. And so once enough was enough, finally, and it's like kind of the birth of the FBI. The FBI was just being formulated, and it's one of the first cases was they sent some agents out to start investigating these murders and get to the bottom of it. So that's what the book is about. It's a nonfiction book. It's all taken from factual conversations, real people, and it's more from the point of view of the FBI as they're trying to kind of unfold this mystery and figure out who's behind it. The movie takes a very different approach and basically tells you from the get-go what's happening and who's behind it, and really puts you more with them. The people doing these truly horrendous and deplorable things. And stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro and Lily Gladstone, who Lily Gladstone is a lesser known actress. She is an indigenous, American Indian actress, and she's phenomenal in this. And she's 37 years old and going head to head in scenes with Leonardo DiCaprio and just holding her own, and if anything, like stealing the attention from him, because she's so good in this. In a role that's like not showy at all either, like very quiet and very emotional. And so this is a movie that we're going to see probably get, nominated in every category, nearly every category across the board, and be an big Oscar player. I don't know if just because, Marty has an Oscar and a lot of the people in this movie have Oscars, if it can really do anything to derail the campaign that Oppenheimer is already on, and the fact that Oppenheimer, which is also a 3-hour plus movie, has been able to make close to $1 billion at the box office, despite being a 3-hour long biopic with a lot of talking and about the man who created the atomic bomb. So it's a very interesting year for the Oscars, and we're now getting into it, and hopefully I'm going to start seeing more of these movies that are, kind of up for some of these awards.
Both of the movies so far are just horrible atrocities committed against Native people. I like how that's the theme of this year.
And Barbie.
And Barbie. That's Barbie. Right. Yeah, I was thinking there should be like a best like movie like based on something from your childhood category, and Barbie should certainly win that.
That would actually be a fun category.
Spider-Man could have won that one from a couple years ago.
In the IP world that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
There's the other one that seems to be kind of a top contender for some of the big awards is Yorgos Lanthimos' movie called Poor Things that stars Emma Stone, which I don't think comes out until December wide release.
That sounded like a Dungeons and Dragons name. That name sounded awesome. What was the director's name?
His name is Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yorgos Lanthimos. If that dude's not in Game of Thrones, then batter me up and fry me whole.
His last film that he did was The Favorite, which also starred Emma Stone and Olivia Colman and Rachel Weisz, and which I really, really liked. And he also did a movie called The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which starred Colin Farrell, and I loved that one as well. So he does just very, they're like kind of black comedy films that he's done, but with drama elements, and they're usually pretty twisted in their own ways. I'm a big fan of Yorgos, and his new movie Poor Things. I'll send you all the trailer because I'm sure you probably haven't seen it.
And it looks really good.
It does. It looks really fascinating.
Just real quick, while you're talking about Colin Farrell, did you know that him and Will Ferrell are married?
Oh boy, I love the facts that y'all bring to this podcast every day. It's truly eye-opening, and I thank you. I thank you for.
Their son is Pharrell.
Oh man, why do I even
I'm happy with that.
put myself through this regularly?
Yeah, that was gangster. Good job, man. Good job.
Hey, thanks, man. You set me up.
Yeah, no problem.
So I'm going to use this time to officially transition to our fresh picks because I like,
Picks.
Drew's Oscar picks do kind of blur into fresh
minute.
picks in a way, but Killers of the Flower Moon was a big one. But I also was able to see Priscilla, which is in the conversation for awards, but I just don't really see it making a dent. And this is the newest film from Sofia Coppola that she directed. It's based on the memoir Elvis and Me by Priscilla Presley, and it's just all about her life. So if you're interested in Elvis and Priscilla in particular, this is the story of their relationship from her point of view. And this might shock you both, but from her point of view, this Elvis guy, he wasn't necessarily the best guy. I don't know if y'all were aware of this.
I feel like historically our gender hasn't been great to
Yes.
the other gender.
Yeah, that's true. Dudes in the 50s probably weren't great.
Yeah.
Not to say that forgives it, but I'm pretty sure he lived on the road and swigged a bunch of alcohol, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was addicted to painkillers there at the end. And usually, from my experience and all the wrestling tragedy stories I've watched, alcohols and painkillers make for a bad ending.
Yeah. So like I said, the movie is a biopic. It's told mostly from Priscilla's point of view, and it starts when he's serving. Elvis is serving in the U.S. Army, and he's in Germany, I believe. And while there, he meets Priscilla because she, her father's in the military, so she's living there. She's in high school, like she's, I believe, about 14 years old.
Oh boy!
And is brought to a party where Elvis is there, and they kind of start their relationship, which was kept, from what they show, pretty PG, until she was of age, and
only did over the pants stuff back then.
Yeah. We'll put it that way.
OTPHJ? Yeah.
But essentially once she really once their relationship became more real, and she came to live with them, and she kind of was like a prisoner in Graceland, and she, he was traveling and he was a huge star, and she was kind of kept in the shadows for a long time until they got married, and he did, he had many affairs that were well documented that she had to deal with, and she, it was a tough relationship, and the movie doesn't sugarcoat any of that. And the thing that's interesting about it is you just had last year this super flashy, huge Elvis movie from Baz Luhrmann that, was more about how painted Elvis in a more sympathetic light, and it had like a powerhouse performance from Austin Butler, who's actually really good in the movie, but it's a lot more about Elvis and how he was almost didn't have full control over his own funds and life, and especially with the Colonel Tom Parker, who was kind of over his manager, who was like really controlling him. And then you have this movie, and like Priscilla's barely in that Elvis movie, like barely in it. She has a couple lines, like they don't focus on her at all. And now you have this new movie to complement it that's from her perspective, and shows how Elvis, had his flaws.
I feel if you're making a movie trying to make him sympathetic, you should probably cut out the part where he's a child grooming pedophile. So.
Oh boy. But in Priscilla, so you've got, what's her name? Kaylee Spaney? I don't know if that's how you pronounce her last name, who plays Priscilla, and she's very good. It's a very subdued performance, very quiet. as she's coming of age and learning how to be in a relationship with Elvis. But Jacob Elordi plays Elvis Presley, which Jacob Elordi is from, most known from Euphoria, but he's having a pretty good year theatrically in some other movies like Saltburn coming out soon and such. But he is actually, the last thing that I would want to do now is, after Austin Butler's, Oscar-nominated performance for Elvis, it's big shoes to fill to portray Elvis on screen after that after Butler's performance, and Jacob Elordi does really well. And I thought he was actually very good. And he brings some of the darkness of his Euphoria character to Elvis, and shows how Elvis, had his demons. And the performance is very good. And it's not the showy, flashy performance like what Austin Butler was doing, because you don't really see Elvis performing much in this movie. It's more of his home life. And so it's a much different performance that I think complements the other one. So anyway, that's Priscilla. I think it's a very interesting movie. Could be divisive if there's fans of Elvis are like, I want to go see the new Elvis related movie. Like, it's going to show him for how he may have been,
Warts
probably
and all.
was. Yeah, and it is what it is. It's not all glamorous in the life of Elvis, and I actually liked it, a pretty good amount. So that's Priscilla. Those were the big movies. I have some other ones I want to talk about. Should I just power through some movies, or do y'all want to talk about something else?
I would be so effing mad. And I'm talking like 10 out of 10. I'm talking 110% mad. I'm talking about maybe my ghost would come back and kick you in the nuts if an ex-girlfriend made a movie about me from her perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get to fire back. You don't get to be like, nah, that's an ex, bro. Like, she's full of shit. You don't get to make your movie about how she's a piece of shit. You're dead, and now your ex gets to take a shit on your legacy from their perspective. And my exes wouldn't have flattering things to say about me, but that doesn't define me.
I'll put it this way, though. It's like this movie. It's hard to put into words. Like, I guess you just have to see it. It's not like this movie's out to cancel Elvis. Like, nobody's trying to cancel Elvis. Elvis you couldn't, and that's not the goal here. The goal is to share.
Yeah, he's already super rich, stole everything from black people, and is a pedophile. Like, you can't cancel him. He's immune.
It's just showing a different side, telling the story that's not as often told from the person point of view it's not often shared from. And it is based on a book. It's based on her memoir. And so it's all there on the page, and they're just making this into a movie based on the stories that she tells there. So, it's just somehow you still walk away from this with like, Elvis is still a superstar. Like, nothing's going to change that in hindsight. It's just, there's just a lot of stories to be told about him. He wore
like a white jumpsuit with rhinestones. You know what I mean? Like, he was a gangster before gangsters were a thing. Like, the dude
trying
nailed
to navigate this so carefully. And you're right.
He understood showmanship. He was like the first, maybe not the first showman, right? They've been around forever, but he was the showman of the decade, of like 20 years.
He
no one
kind
could
of invented like
show.
Waving your crotch in people's faces. That wasn't really a thing.
Yeah,
and Forrest Gump taught him how to dance.
That's true.
Real fact.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Get to your. Well, let's. John and I have some like similar type of things going on. Why don't you talk about some more of your movies? I've got a movie.
I have one movie as well.
Well, I've got.
Talk about movies, Drew. We'll get in the movie mix.
Yeah, I'll go through these pretty quick because I've got one. Actually, I would recommend to you, Jahan, in particular. It's a Hulu original.
Okay.
It's called No One Will Save You, and this is an alien invasion horror-ish movie, and starring Caitlin Dever. And I guess the gimmick, for lack of a better word, of this movie is that there's little to no dialogue spoken throughout, and it's this girl who like lives kind of out in the country by herself. It's kind of unclear at the beginning what's happened to her family members, but you can kind of assume that they're like recently deceased, so she's like making her way on her own. And when she goes into town, she's seems to be not well liked by people, and then while she's asleep one night at home, there's an alien that comes into her house, and it's how she deals with that. And it's all about,
is it like is it like a fourth kind alien, or is it like Paul?
It's like Paul. Yeah,
Oh,
like
shit.
the alien
Didn't expect
design. The alien design in this is like very much traditional, the gray visitors aliens.
Oh, I don't mean visually. I mean, is it Seth Rogen?
Oh no, I
Like
thought you were
the
just
tone.
meaning in design.
No.
The tone. It's a
Yeah,
horror
but
movie.
No, it's like a horror movie. It's a horror movie.
Okay. Man, yeah, you totally threw me for a
threw
loop. I
me
was
for a
leaning
loop.
back listening to this horror thing, and then when you said it's like Paul.
They both look at each other they're like, ah!
You threw me off
Physical
because I thought you were
resemblance.
referring like physically what
Physically,
the
yeah,
aliens looked like. And
I just
and they're
looked it
like,
up.
Oh,
I already added it to my Hulu watch list, Drew.
yeah,
I
it's
do like-
it's
I like scary aliens, and I also lived remote, pretty far away from towns for a while. So I like, I was a big fan of Signs. Signs was great, and this sort of sounds like Signs-ish.
it's like the alien designs are a little bit uninspired at times, but this was a movie not made on a huge budget, and it's kind of more about the gimmick and what it's trying to do with the no dialogue, and it works really well. Especially, I'd say the first half of it is really intriguing. But overall, I actually liked it a good amount. So that's No One Will Save You. It's on Hulu.
Do you think that people that get abducted by aliens and then probed, like the reason they get probed is because like they're so ugly the alien can't tell which one's their mouth?
No. They got to check our gender the same way we do for.
Oh,
an
up the
alligator.
butt. Okay.
Up the butt.
Up
yeah.
the butt.
Yep. That's the best way to do
See,
it.
that's the part that always got me by abduction. I'm like, that's the detail that makes me not believe you. It's like, why would they be touching your butthole?
Right in your butt. That's what I was going to ask you, Drew. Spoilers, no spoilers, right? Don't spoil the movie for me.
Do they touch your butt?
Yeah. is anyone
Oh, do
looking?
they touch her butt? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
what you're asking?
Yeah.
I cannot confirm or deny.
That's a good answer.
Unclear.
That's a good answer.
They
Unclear.
do.
That's a
All
good
right.
answer.
No one
Swiggity
will save-
swoony, they're gonna get that booty.
I'm gonna search the YouTube later, and I know you said this is a Hulu original, but I'm just gonna search YouTube and see if I can watch this movie. I want to watch No One Will Save You, and I don't want to pay for Hulu.
Man, and it surprises me. I know that we have to make cuts every now and then, but you were always the biggest Hulu fan. I feel like it was your go-to for a long time there.
Yeah, but I really wanted to watch AEW. I wanted to see what kind of wrestling show is going on over there, and you can only get it through Sling. So I figured I could just watch Sling for a couple months and see, and then I could go back and maybe try Netflix and maybe switch back to Hulu. I'm thinking about bouncing around every couple months.
I do the
So I could
I do the
watch this
Hulu
stuff.
Disney bundle. It's pretty sweet.
You're pretty sweet.
Not sponsored.
Wait, so is Netflix part of your current rotation, Gary?
No.
No, okay. Because my next watch was a Netflix watch, and it would actually be a recommendation for you, only because we've actually talked a fair amount about Wes Anderson movies on here. Like, I feel like the past couple of them, French Dispatch and Asteroid City, you actually watched those before I was even able to.
Yes, and I didn't love French Dispatch, but I did watch it. I do watch Wes Anderson movies. I'm at least interested in what he's doing, even if I don't love it. It's interesting.
It is
so
always interesting. I really enjoyed Asteroid City.
He's currently doing. Wes Anderson has a series of short stories, so short films that he's doing on Netflix that are based off of a series of Roald Dahl stories. I believe it was like a compilation of stories, but this first one, it's on Netflix now. It's only 39 minutes long, and it's called The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. and it stars Benedict Cumberbatch and Dev Patel and Ben Kingsley and Ray Fiennes, and it's kind of like a little fairy tale.
Cast. It's a
Yeah.
cast.
And it's really good. I liked this a whole lot, and it's kind of fun seeing like Wes Anderson has come under more scrutiny in the past couple of years because of French Dispatch and Asteroid City, and some discourse is like, hey, we're kind of over your shtick. Like, we get it. And I'm not over it. I personally love Wes Anderson's style and could continue to watch more and more of it. But it fits.
No Wes Anderson, we will be left with Wes Anderson ripoffs. So enjoy it while we've got it.
I mean, like, what is the alternative for him to not do his own style of movie? Like, that's stupid.
Right. That's a good point.
Like, hey, you have this style that's uniquely yours. Don't do it anymore. That's weird.
Man, they should have told Tim Burton that.
He
Stop doing it.
Yeah,
Tim.
It lends itself really well though to doing like a short film, and the plot of this one is basically there's like this Ben Kingsley plays a character who has taught himself to essentially see with his eyes closed. Is kind of the fable in it. And so Benedict Cumberbatch's character is like, I'm going to do everything in my power to learn this skill as well, and essentially to try and cheat at gambling and earn a fortune is what he's trying to do. And so it's well done, and it's perfectly paced with a 40-minute length, like can't go wrong. And he does have a few other shorts that I think are streaming now, like The Swan and the Rat. I don't know if they're all out yet. I know The Swan is out. Yeah, The Rat Catcher and Poison. So they're all out of varying lengths. I need to watch the other ones, but it's on Netflix. The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar.
Are they all together, or do you have to go find them?
They are separate. It kind of baffles me why they're not in almost like
Cabinet of Curiosities.
Yes, exactly. Like put in one thing. No, they're all separate entries on Netflix, which is kind of confusing because if
Wes
you don't
Anderson's
know,
Wardrobe of Wonder.
Yeah, if you don't know that Wes Anderson's doing a series of Roald Dahl shorts on Netflix, then you wouldn't know that these are all linked in a way.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then the only other movie I wanted to know, I don't know if either of y'all watched this. This is the newest Happy Madison release on Netflix, and it's called You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah, and it actually stars Adam Sandler's daughter. Her name is Sunny Sandler, and his other daughter Sadie Sandler is also in this. Adam Sandler plays their dad, and he's Idina Menzel plays her mom in the movie. But it's like a typical coming of age story where his youngest daughter is preparing for her bat mitzvah, looking forward to it, wants to have the best party ever, and then she and her friend get into a big fight over a boy. And so it's
no way this is the fresh pick for the week. Is this fresh?
This
doesn't sound fresh.
The Happy Madison releases on Netflix obviously are extremely varying degrees of quality, mostly
Generally,
bad.
They're not fresh. Yeah, I would say, generally speaking, not so fresh.
Hey.
This one's pretty good.
Huh.
And Adam Sandler is a pretty small role in it. I mean, he's their dad. He's like a supporting part, but he's not the lead of this movie.
I love that they're using their privilege to get rich and famous. That's cool. I do appreciate
Essentially,
that.
yeah.
It's called nepotism, and it's fun.
I love that. That's great, and I love that.
They're like Jaden Smith.
Exactly.
Except they haven't tried to solve the water crisis yet.
Nothing that y'all are saying about the nepotism of it is wrong. However, Sunny Sandler, who's the lead of this movie, is like a discovery in herself. Like, she's really good in it, and I could see her having a legitimate career beyond this one, whether it's in movies with her dad or not. And the older sister, Sadie Sandler, who's in it and plays the older sister in this, she's very good as well. Her part's not as big, but they're both fun and memorable, and I liked it a lot. So you're not wrong to have the take that you are about just what this is as a concept. That being said, in execution and for what it is,
yeah,
it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I mean,
I recommend it.
When you talk about like things like Hollywood nepotism. Like, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? You're not gonna put your kid in your movie. I don't know. Like, I'd put my kid in my movie. You know, it's
There's a
Adam
fine
Sandler's
line.
made no secret that he likes to go to cool locations and make movies with his friends and family,
Well,
and
people he
he's
likes,
good
yeah.
doing that.
it is
Yep.
what it is. I don't hate him for it. You know, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like your movies.
Nah, make your money. I like you still.
I liked Hubie Halloween. That's
My
a
thing
new-
is,
it's a new tradition.
go make those Hubie Halloweens and Sandy Wexlers and whatever, and just give me an Uncut Gems every couple of years, and I'm set. I'm happy. I'm all good with it.
It is Halloween season, and I decided to watch an old classic Halloween movie. I had never seen The Thing before.
Oh, yeah.
So I watched The Thing. You were talking about all the movies you watched, and so Annie and I watched The Thing. There were definitely some really cool moments, and the idea, the concept is cool. It's the old, you're stuck on the moon base or you're stuck in the submarine type of thing. You're stuck in Antarctica, you can't go outside, you'll freeze to death. That old stuck in the base thing is cool. And then, of course, the chopper getting ripped apart and everybody being stranded, going to die in Antarctica pretty much no matter what. I liked it. I liked The Thing. I liked the way it ended with the, sort of uneasiness of the alliance at the end. Yeah, I like The Thing.
Cool.
It's having never seen it is pretty dope. And Kurt Russell, of course,
Classic.
is the man. He'll always, classic Kurt Russell is the man for sure.
One of the all-time practical effects movies.
I did think
yeah.
it was really cool. Like I had like my eye on the props and stuff in the background, right? Because there's this weird thing where like gore will mess with me if it looks real, but the practical effects in The Thing, they don't look real, but they do. They don't look human, but they do look real.
Right.
And so there's a lot of really cool practical effects and a lot of cool juicy, like flowing, gushy, dripping, nasty monsters, and I like all of that.
The dog monster is real gross and cool, with like its weird
Oh,
tendril
yeah.
whip things. It's awesome.
It's been too long. I need to
Yeah.
rewatch it.
It's so
It was
good.
pretty cool, man.
Hey, man, I'm glad
What
you're
about
getting in
you,
the
John?
spirit. Yeah, I also watched a Halloween-y movie. Mine was less horrific. I watched the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. I don't know if you've ever seen the origin of the Buffy show before.
I didn't even know there was a movie.
Before it was a TV show, it was a movie by Josh Whedon.
Really?
Josh Whedon.
No way.
Yeah, it's got Paul Rubens in it. So Pee-wee's a vampire in it. It's pretty good. It's got what's his name? He's in everything in the '90s. David Arquette. He's in it. And then
Love
there's
David
one
Arquette.
scene where like there's a basketball player just for one scene, and I was like, "What the fuck? That's Ben Affleck." Like he was just there and like had a very small role in one line, and I was like, and he was like a kid. And so yeah, it's a
But
classic.
it's not the lead of the show, right? It's not
It's not Sarah Michelle Gellar. No, it is
Sarah Michelle Gellar. Thank you.
none of the characters, none of the actors reprise their roles in the TV show. But the TV show picks up immediately after the events of the movie.
So strange. All
Yeah.
of that is strange.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And so obviously it
seems
prompted,
like a movie. Seems like a movie that came from an alternate reality, and it's just like this standalone movie that doesn't belong, followed by the series that does belong in our reality.
if you haven't seen it, it does hold up. It's not bad. Like it's pretty solid. And it's a good intro to Buffy. If you haven't seen Buffy, maybe check out the movie. Maybe you'll like it.
As a non-Buffy truther, right? Like I haven't seen any of the show. I know it's like beloved, but is the show's legacy is stronger than this movie, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
I
definitely.
feel like the show has more of the cult following than this actual initial movie does.
I think
Is
he
that-
made. I think he made the movie. It had some interest and people liked it, and he wanted to do a show. I'm not really sure what the behind the scenes is on that, but I'm glad he did the show. The show is definitely the phenomena. Between Buffy and Angel, they kind of blew up. But no, it got me in the mood. I started a Buffy rewatch officially. I'm starting again. I'm watching it over again. I've seen all of Buffy. I've seen all of Angel.
Isn't as I'm with Drew as a non-Buffy truther. Isn't it like cringy and dated? Wasn't there like some weird stuff going on set that doesn't play out very well on camera now?
So one of the characters, Xander, particularly, he is a 90s picture of toxic masculinity. It's pretty bad. He's like a nerdy, like, well, they didn't have a word for it back then, but he's kind of an incel. It's not great, but, you know, it never works out for him anyways, so they don't glamorize it. I haven't seen anything that was overly problematic, although I think it was the third episode where it was like a hot for teacher thing, where there was like a hot lady teacher, and like, it was just, I don't know, it was a thing. It was kind of, it has a little bit of cringe to it, but it more or less holds up. And Angel doesn't really have a lot of cringe. I think Angel's the better of the two shows. It's less teen drama and more monsters and occult stuff.
And it ran for fewer seasons, right?
It ran for like 5. I think Buffy had like 6 or 7.
That's not bad.
But yeah, I'm a fan. I like Buffy. I like Angel. It sucks that, you know, Joss Whedon's a creep. But it is what it is. And yeah, actually, there's a new Buffy like radio show on Audible that you can listen to right now that I want to check out. So they're still making content for it, and I hear something about a revival as well. So if you never checked out Buffy, I say give it a shot. And if you can't find yourself getting into it, maybe just go try Angel. It's a different flavor, for sure. So yeah, that was me getting into Halloween, man. Vampires and stuff.
Hell yeah.
Honestly, like, the coolest thing about those shows for me is the lore. There's a lot of really cool lore in them. They do monsters in a very interesting way. Vampires are actually like part demon. I don't know. It's a whole thing. It's pretty cool.
It's definitely one of those things I feel like had I gotten into it at the time, I would have really been into it. But now, 20 years after the show went off the air, I'm just like, I just don't feel like there's any value to me doing it now.
It might be past its time, man, but I don't know, you might like it, but it's...
Yeah, I also feel like there's other things that I should be watching with my time than... Not that I'm taking a shot at you, but I'm not going to watch Buffy with my time because it's not new and current, but if it was, I might.
Yeah. I would maybe watch the movie, what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, check out the movie.
Like, see what started it all, because that's 90 minutes of my time, and not, 200 episodes or however many episodes.
It's not a very long. It's not a very long movie, so yeah, you can watch it pretty quickly. And it is good for the Halloween time, especially because I watched it with Jen, and she actually put it on. It's not horror. It's just kind of spooky. It's like 2 steps above Hocus Pocus, I guess. It's not too scary. So it's a good family flick.
Cool.
That's not all I watched for Halloween, but that was the last movie I think on any of our lists. I checked out the new Goosebumps on Hulu. It was interesting, different than what I was expecting. It wasn't fantastic, but it was watchable. The first episode is based on Say Cheese and Die, the Goosebump where the camera like predicts your death or whatever, and then kind of causes it. It was an interesting story. It had a good cast, and it was a lot of inclusivity, which was interesting. I liked it a lot.
Does this show? I'm interested because, there was the Goosebumps show when we were younger, I guess in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it was a true anthology series, similar to Are You Afraid of the Dark or something of the sort, where every episode, was based on a book and just told its own short contained story of the book. Is this like that, where it's an anthology series, or is there an overarching plot that weaves in and out through these stories?
It seems like both. It seems, because I know Justin Long is in this,
right? And
I think he goes through all of them. And I think that he's kind of like a pivot point for some of these stories. I think he touches most of them. I'm not sure if they're all canon with each other, all the stories, but it is an anthology kind of that they're attaching to each other. It's not bad. it's a little more mature than the original show, the original Goosebumps show.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say like PG-13 style kind of stuff.
Okay.
Watchable with kids, but caution. The first episode,
More mature children.
yeah, first episode, someone burns to death, and like, that's not a kid's thing. But hey, it's
Right.
It's like a '90s kids thing, though. It was okay when we were kids to watch that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It's not bad. It's on Hulu. Maybe check out the first episode, see if you like it. I might continue my watch.
Is it fresh?
It's fresh-ish, but I would say overall, no. It's not the best.
It's mild.
I watched one.
Say,
I only watched one, and so it's hard for me to gauge the whole series.
And it's also, a pseudo kids show based on a book series from the 90s. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's supposed to slap super hard. I don't think that was ever the expectation.
No, it's fine for what it is, and
But does it slappy hard?
I think the second episode will. I'm pretty sure Slappy's in one of these episodes. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I mean, I watched one, and I will watch more, so I guess it's fine. It's not a ring.
I want to hear you talk about. I want to hear you talk about Generation V because I don't have Amazon Prime
Generation
right now.
V. All right, anyone?
And I'm super interested in Generation V. Isn't it like X-Men but the boys?
It's kind of like X-Men, but the boys. Yeah. So Generation V takes place in the world of the boys. What is it? Robert Kirkman, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Robert Kirkman. It doesn't seem like he can miss, given the fact that he did The Walking Dead and Invincible and The Boys. All three of them slap. Crazy. But hey, this is no exception. In ways, Generation V is better, almost, than The Boys. It's in ways, not overall,
no.
maybe.
Garth Ennis, not Kirkman.
No,
right?
didn't he do the subject material though? Wasn't this Kirkman?
I don't know.
Oh man, am I wrong? That'd be embarrassing. But whatever, I'm wrong.
It was written by Garth Ennis.
The book?
Co-created by Derek Robertson. That's who
Okay.
it was co-created by.
Maybe I saw the Invincible thing right before or something. I don't know. Either way, this is a really good comic book adaptation, and Gen V, in a lot of ways, it has some better stuff than. It's more relatable than The Boys. The Boys is like a nonstop like revenge story full of anger and bad feelings and stuff. This has some of that. It has a lot of the gore. It definitely has the sex and stuff from The Boys. It has all that crazy over the top like ultra violence and sexual content. But honestly, some of the acting in this is very good. They have a good cast, not of anybody I know. So like all these young people, I don't know where they're from, but all of them are pretty good actors. And some of the characters are very interesting. The story's interesting. I'm caught up as of right now. It's not done. It's releasing weekly, I guess. But I liked it. Jen liked it. I would certify this fresh 100%. I think it's really cool.
Should I get Amazon just to watch this?
I
and
mean,
then cancel it again,
bro. I don't know if
the only.
How did you handle
only
The
other
Boys?
reason- I did not like The Boys, but I did like Invincible a lot. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm at. I was gonna wait to get Amazon Prime again until Invincible season 2 came out because I know that I'll watch that and I'll love that. That's the one I'm waiting for. But Gen V does have my curiosity piqued of which one I'm gonna pick up next. I don't know if I'm gonna go Amazon or Netflix because I want to watch that the One Piece live action adaptation. Also, I've heard a lot of good stuff about that. So Netflix is on my radar.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's fair. I don't know but mostly the violence. How'd you handle the violence in The Boys?
At the time of The Boys, not well. I had that was around the time I had to quit watching everything, The Boys and Game of Thrones and anything with any kind of violence at all. But I've been able to build back up a tolerance to that kind of thing over the years.
This violence is in the vicinity for sure of that. I feel like some of it's less. It's a little less violent in certain ways, but it's definitely there. It's definitely
Yeah, the sexual violence really, really probably not something I want to
Sexual
watch.
violence, not so much. Not so
Okay.
much. There hasn't really been. There were some kind of like.
That was the thing about the boys that really put me off.
There's a
Man,
lot of
the
sexual violence in the boys.
sexual
There's
assault.
not really sexual assault in this. There is a storyline that deals with it, but they don't show anything.
Yeah, that's okay because the stories need to be told, man. It's a real thing
a real
that
thing.
happens to people. It's traumatic, and their stories need to be told. I understand that.
Man, Robert Kirkman really didn't have anything to do with the boys. That's crazy. Here I was thinking this guy couldn't miss. He still can't miss, but
Right?
it is
No
what it
kidding.
is.
The real secret is that Garth Ennis can't miss. He was a phenomenal writer for comic books. He wrote Punisher for a while. He wrote Preacher. He wrote The Boys. So Garth Ennis, if you're looking for a comic book writer to pick up, Ennis can't miss.
I think
I
that's
didn't know
why
this guy was-
we read the book The Boys around when it came out, is because Gary was the one that alerted me to that book when it came out, years ago. We were in college. And because Garth Ennis was involved, so Gary was like, "I'm in on this," just with that. So
Ennis and Dylan used to do Preacher, and then they started doing Punisher, and
That
that's
makes
really when they
sense.
landed on my map.
I'm
And then
looking
I
at
ran forwards
his.
and backwards.
I'm looking at his catalog here. This makes sense. He did The Boys, Punisher, Hellblazer, Preacher, and then, not surprisingly, Crossed. I don't know if you've ever seen Crossed. It's like if zombies were zombies, but instead of brains, they want to fuck you to death.
No.
oh boy,
Dude, it's pretty extreme. I read one of the books and I was like, you know what? I don't think I need to read more of these. This is
It's like
upsetting.
if our friend Kyle wrote a zombie story, that's what it would be.
That's where I heard it from. He dressed up like one of the zombies for Halloween, and I was like, "What are you supposed to be?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm the Cross." And so I read one, and I was like, "Oh boy."
Oh man, that's super funny.
Oh, boy.
All right, we've got another show on the list, and you and I both have this. Drew,
But,
I don't know. You may
Gary,
what?
one thing about the Crossed. There's a scene where this dude, he catches a dolphin so he can have sex with its blowhole.
Well, let's move on here. Let's move
Yeah.
on.
All right, I'm glad you're moving on
That's
because
the
I had a
Crossed.
whole tangent. I had a whole
That's the Crossed.
dolphin love tangent I was going to go on, and I'm glad that we don't have to do that.
We don't have to, no.
We'll save the dolphin love tangent for whenever Free Willy 3 comes out. John, we've both got Loki on our list. Drew, have you been watching Loki? It just didn't make your list because it's on ours, or you haven't watched it yet?
I'm just behind. I've watched the first episode only. So when y'all talked about it 2 weeks ago, I hadn't watched any of it, and I've now watched the first. I'm just behind, and I actually really liked the first episode a lot, and I just
episode's
haven't
good.
had time to catch up.
I would say it gets better after the first episode, and I also thought the first episode was good. I'm thinking Loki. We're only 2 episodes in. There's probably a third one that came out tonight that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I've
but
only seen the first two as well.
First 2. It's coming out hot, man. And I loved WandaVision when it came out. Loved Loki when it came out. And Loki season 2 is just as good as when Loki came out. It's great. It
It's-
doesn't slowly pick up. It just hits the ground running and is like, come on, catch up. This is what we're doing, remember?
Yeah.
And I love that.
It is
It is
interesting
great.
that it manages to keep the pace and the feel of the first season. Like, it doesn't miss a beat. It's really interesting. Like, most shows can't do that.
Can I give my pessimistic or my cynical take here, though?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I would love
This is a
you
safe
to take a
place.
cap on this. Yeah, man.
So-
Poop all over it.
I do feel like the feedback and the reviews of what I've been hearing about Loki from press and friends alike have been positive, right? Like, and I watched the first episode and I thought it was really good, like surprisingly so. I almost, not to say I wasn't looking forward to it, but I was just like, okay, let's see. And I thought the first episode kicked off with a bang and immediately justified the existence of a second season of the show. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. And I am genuinely looking forward to watching more. I've just had a lot of other things going on and just truly haven't had the time. Well, I should say haven't prioritized the time for this over other things. And my thing is with Loki is that despite the positive reviews of it, I feel like there's no sense of urgency around it. Like I don't feel, it's not like a couple of years ago where these shows were coming out and you felt like you had to watch it when it came out or it was going to get spoiled and to be part of the conversation. And I feel like the only conversation about Loki is like that it's pretty good, that there's no other conversation about it. Like I just haven't had
a huge, I would consider that there was a huge spoiler last episode.
Okay. Well, don't tell me what it is because I will
to,
catch up on it. But I guess you're the first person I've even heard allude to anything like that. That there's something big.
I texted Nick because he's not one of you guys, right? And I knew he had seen it. So he's the one I texted about it, and I was like, "Holy crap!" And he's like, "Yeah, right." And John, maybe it wasn't a big deal to you. You don't seem super shocked, but it was a big deal to me. The second,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Second episode.
I can't think about what you're. I can't figure out what you're talking about.
It was cool, Drew, the way the second episode started. This is not a spoiler, by the way, but it's a time travel show, so they end up in the 1800s in the second episode, and so
right.
it hits like the Marvel theme with like an old honky tonky sort of piano, like an 1800s ragtime jig. And so that's really cool. Just throughout the episode, it's got a lot of that sort of nod to that time period. It was fun. It was a fun episode. Now, using the time travel show to do what you should have been doing the whole time. It's Quantum Leap, except with Tom Hiddleston and
right.
And Owen Wilson. So, yeah, it's great. I'm in for it.
I'm always surprised at Owen Wilson in the show. He's really good. He's very, very good.
I'm gonna send you a message, Shahan, on just like a one-on-one on Discord. We don't have to talk about it right now, but I'll send you what I was surprised about, and then maybe you can tell me why you weren't surprised. Do you have anything you want to say about Loki before we move on, Shahan? I think I've said what I need to say, which I recommended it. If anybody watched Loki 1, watch Loki 2.
And I apologize for butting in for the one that hadn't seen it all. So
it's okay. No, so I like it. They did. I don't know. There's a lot of character development in this show. The characters change. I like it a lot. I feel like Owen Wilson and Loki both evolve during the show. They both evolve and change. I can't say too much else without spoiling stuff, but they're building on their lore, and it's important that they do so. The thing I'll say about why it's not water cooler talk, I feel like a couple of years ago it was COVID. Everyone was watching everything as soon as it came out and then talking about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's where that sense of urgency started coming from. And then,
no way.
And then also
Game of Thrones every weekend, way before that.
That's true. Well, I just mean like with the Marvel stuff, like it was specifically with Loki. It was during that time you had more time to watch stuff, but also like the Marvel universe used to mesh more. It's there's not, you're not finding Captain America spoilers in the shows anymore. For what I mean, like it's not the same. I don't know.
I thought it's super funny too that Drew said it doesn't feel as pressing or whatever. And I've told you that before, just about these stories in general that exist outside of timelines. It's really hard to find them intriguing for a long time because you can always go back and change something. No one's actually dead. Anything can be everything, and anywhere can be anything. And after a while, these kind of shows get stupid. And just the whole premise of we can change it if we do the blah blah blah. It's wacky to exist outside of time. I think they should probably stop with Loki season 2. I don't think they should milk it for all it's worth, but season 2 is good so far. I would love to see a tragic ending. You know what I mean? It's really setting you up for an emotional tragic ending, I think, which I would absolutely love that.
I can't imagine Tom Hiddleston wants to do this forever, but maybe he does.
Hey man, I bet those paychecks look good.
I bet those paychecks are sweet.
And it's not like, it's hard work. He's going to work with Owen Wilson every day, probably trying not to laugh all day. I bet that's a fun gig.
Yeah, just give you like enough money to buy like a mansion every day. It's fucking cool.
Side note, those sets are super cool. The brown and orange that they use in the TVA and all like the airlock doors and stuff. I was really admiring the sets. They built a lot of practical stuff for the backgrounds.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Watch it, Drew.
All right,
I will.
gotta-
I'll catch up by next week, so hopefully we can actually have a little bit more of a discussion around it and not tiptoe as much.
Got a quick video game update, Drew. I see you have a grand slam of a game, so I'm gonna let you headline here. It is Halloween season, so I've been playing Dark Tide, the 40K hack and slash survival game. I've been having a blast, so much so that I convinced Nick to buy Vermintide 2. Jahan reinstalled Vermintide 2, and Annie's too. So now we can all kill chaos and rats, and then we can go back to the future and kill more chaos. So we've got the fantasy and the future version on rotation for the Halloween season. So commence the slaying, y'all, for the Emperor.
Hell yeah,
That's
man.
all
I'm
I got,
excited to get
Drew.
back
Those
to
are
you.
my-
I'm back to it.
Nice.
Dark Tide has redone their class trees. They've got new stuff. Super fun to go back to. Vermintide 2 continues to add new DLC. You do have to pay for it, but they've got new maps and 5 new characters, or 5 new classes, 1 for each character. So there's always new stuff, and Fat Shark is continuing to support their community and their games.
I bought the Necromancer.
I bought Marvel's Spider-Man 2
And the
for the
wild.
PlayStation 5.
Didn't this
and-
game sell 25 million copies in 24 hours?
It's pretty
It sold a lot. I think it's already like the fastest selling PS5 exclusive or something of the sort. I didn't look at the numbers, but I saw the headlines. And it's very good. I mean, Jahan, I believe we've talked about it before that you played the first Spider-Man game when it was available on PC. Is that right?
Yep. And it was one of the best games I ever played in my life, and I can't wait for this to come to PC.
And this and I mean, not to say this as like a insult, but like Spider-Man 2 is more of the same, which is all I could have asked for. The story is fantastic. It has me totally intrigued. I haven't had anything spoiled for me, so there's things that are happening in it that like I'm looking forward to seeing how the story plays out. For anybody that's followed the marketing of the game, it's clear that, you know, the symbiote suit is part of this. Like Kraven's kind of billed as as one of the main villains in the initial demos they did, but Venom and the symbiote suit are a part of this and lurking in the corners. However, it's kind of an interesting story. There's no well, maybe I am gonna. I'm trying not to spoil. I'm more telling what's not in the game, because it was clear from the initial trailers of like Venom was here, but it wasn't clear who is Venom. If that makes sense, like is it Eddie Brock or is it someone else? And so I'm playing the game and I still don't know the answer, and I'm a good ways into it, so I'm interested to kind of seeing where the story goes. But as of now,
what else is not in the game is the Puerto Rican flag. Apparently, they accidentally. Put the
I saw that. Yeah,
I saw that.
they had a Cuban flag up
flag
in
the
Miles'
bedroom wall.
house.
That's funny.
I will say this is very much a Peter Parker story from the main thing. Like you can play as Peter and Miles is a very good like secondary main character for this, but it's still a Spider-Man game. You know, it's a Peter game, but Miles has a big role in it. But I still kind of feel like Peter's at the front and center, and it's I'm really enjoying it. There's a lot of one of the things they improved from the first game, Jahan, is like the different areas of the city. You know, there's like different check marks you have to do, right? There's like side missions and tasks to complete every district. And in the first game, one of the things you had to do were these like random crimes that you had to stop or whatever.
Yeah,
and they got
those are
really
fun.
grindy. Yeah, they were fun, but like at the end game when you're doing them, it's pretty grindy. Those random crimes still pop up all over, but they are not required for any kind of check mark. So that's nice.
Oh, okay, cool.
Instead, it's more traditional fun side content, and even some of the little tasks that are maybe not my favorites. One of them in particular, there's like these birds and you have to use your little web wings to fly behind them for an extended period of time to finish the little side mission. And when you finish all of those, it has a really cool ending mission that was worth it. So like that's the thing, is even some of the stuff that's like kind of, you know, typical side content usually ends with a bang. So they've just put a lot of time and effort into even the side content. The city's way bigger. As I said, you have web wings now, so not only can you swing, but you can use your web wings to glide, and there's like cool air tunnels throughout the city, so you can glide super fast around without even swinging. And yeah, it's just a classic case of a sequel that takes everything that worked about the first one and expanded upon it and made it better, and it's just a extremely solid second entry that I'm really loving. Almost too much though, because I'm flying through it, and I have a feeling I'm gonna have platinumed it in about a week, and then I'll be done with it. But I can't help it. I can't put it down. So it's been really.
That's all
really
I
good.
wanted to hear, man. That sounds great. Like that's really really cool.
Yeah, there's some stuff, some of the story or some of the missions where you're playing as Peter, like not as Spider-Man, but as Peter, sometimes go on a little bit too long, and I'm like, I just want to be Spider-Man again. But it's telling a story, and the story is good enough that you stick with it.
Is it the same as in the first game where you're playing as Peter, or is it more?
Similar.
I didn't feel like it
Usually
went on too
the
long.
Peter parts are they're more story serving. With other characters like Harry and Mary Jane, and there's some playable Mary Jane segments.
I wasn't crazy about the Mary Jane segments in the first one, but honestly, they had some really interesting story stuff, and so it was fine.
The one Mary Jane mission I've done so far is still stealth focused, but they've improved it a lot. She has a taser. She can actually do like some kind of action, more actiony stuff. They made it a lot better than it was in the original, where you get caught, you start over.
Cool. Well, damn. Everyone should play Certified Fresh?
Oh, Certified Way Fresh.
Oh, yeah.
Way Fresh
That's not a surprise.
All right, this time let me be the devil's advocate. I loved the Spider-Man game for PlayStation. I thought it was awesome. And I liked the old Spider-Man games for like PlayStation 2 and stuff like that as well, where you could unlock like the Green Goblin Glider.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, when you nail it, you do it, you've got the physics, you did the game, you crushed it, why make another one 2 years later? Why not make another superhero game? You've already crushed the Spider-Man game. I played the Spider-Man game. I don't want to play it again. That's just DLC.
I do.
And that's okay. It's okay that you do. But I would
So,
think
like,
from like
you
a
can-
game studio standpoint, they would want to push the envelope and not just do the same thing, mostly the same thing again.
I would say I downplayed the web wings and how big of a mechanic that is in the game, and how much it changes the movement. And I think that after playing 2 and having the web wings, it would be really hard to go back to 1 because it's so much of a game changer. And the city's expanded to now include like Brooklyn and Queens. Not that that's like a game changer in itself.
Yeah, but it's like twice as big, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's huge. It's huge,
but
but
we
you can
have-
still get around really fast. And
We've
I
learned
think, Gary,
through the years
the
that bigger isn't necessarily better when it comes to these kinds of free
True.
roam games.
But
This
my
one-
argument
this
would
one
be
it works.
when it comes to accurate maps of New York, bigger is better.
And
Personally.
when it
This
comes
one
to
it-
being Spider-Man, you do want more buildings to split the, you don't want to have to stop at the end of the block and go
Yeah.
back.
I also
can
saw
get
that
it
you could
going.
turn the web swing assist off so that it's like realistic and you could crash into stuff and like it
And-
doesn't help you swing.
And you can turn fall damage on as well. So if you fall from a high distance and forget to swing or something, you ragdoll and die. So yeah,
That's funny. That's funny.
they did that. But the story is good enough to justify its existence too. And I think they've actually done a really smart thing where in the first game, they didn't. They had a lot of villains in it because they kind of did a Sinister Six thing in the first game, but they also didn't blow their load with everything that they could have done in that game. And so
Yeah,
playing the
it
second
really-
game,
You're right. They Sinister Sixed it, but it was sort of like a side to Sinister Six. They just sort of were in the way, but it was mostly a Mr. Negative game at the end of the day.
True.
yeah, and with this one, it's like I'm playing it through and seeing where the story goes, and there's still things that I'm like, oh man, they haven't addressed this, or they haven't had this character or this villain, and there still seem to be a lot of things that they're keeping up their sleeve for a future game. Especially
Oh,
like,
shit.
are
They
we
use
eventually?
Big Wheel yet?
No, Big Wheel has not been in it.
Keep it
But
in
like-
the sleeve.
As an example, Norman Osborn, is in the first game as a character, and he's in the second game as a character, but there's been no Green Goblin yet, at least where I'm at. So, I guess that might be a slight spoiler of something that's not there, at least from what I've seen. So they're saving some things. There's been no Gwen Stacy in the game, or could they do a Ghost Spider Gwen Stacy, have a third playable character in the future? Who knows? There's still a lot that they can do.
Clone Saga
in this world, and the costumes, of course, that they add in are very cool, and they've added additional color schemes for costumes. So not only can you unlock new costumes, but then you can unlock multiple color schemes of those costumes and just like really get any kind of look that you want. There's some really cool ones.
Now, hell yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of the costumes. A lot of them are really cool. I saw that there's one where you have the cat in the backpack, and if you have that one on, the cat will help in combo finishers, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it looks like a solid game. I can't wait to play it.
It's great.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. That's it for this episode, right?
Yeah, it was a jam-packed one, but we were also playing a little bit of catch-up since we didn't have an episode last week.
Ketchup or jam, Drew? Choose one. They don't go together.
Mustard?
Ooh, well, that does cut the mustard. So, hey, everybody, thanks for listening to Fresh Out the Podcast. We're the worst. I've been the Board Game Guru, Game Master Extraordinaire, Johannanon.
It's me, Casualty, CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Box and Fresh Out the Podcast. If you guys are into tabletop role-playing games, you should come check out Fresh Out the Box. That's where me and Jahan invite friends to play tabletop role-playing games with us. We do silly voices, and we pretend to get... We play make-pretend. That's what we do. We just play make-pretend and then roll dice to see if the things that we're pretending actually happen or not. So check out Fresh Out the Box. We are Fresh Out the Box TTRPG on YouTube. We have a Facebook. We're on twitch.tv/Johannanon every Thursday and Friday night. Drop in, say what's up, give us a thumbs up, and boon or doom us. You can help us along our way or force us to die. You can affect our story however you want. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for all of your support as always. Tell your friends and family about Fresh Out the Podcast.
I'm Drew Munhausen at Drew Munhausen on all the social media platforms. And this has been episode 107 of Fresh Out the podcast where I'm always here. Put some paprika on that mustard, baby. Let's go.
Stay deviled.
There we go. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Stay fresh.